So then other questions like chapter summary, and not chapter summary, canto summary. The first question, I will just open the this one question paper. So this is the question paper which we were preparing. Right? Out of 17 questions, I have given 14, out of which 3 questions are compulsory. 2 questions from the 10th chapter for which we did not have any weekly test, and 1 question describe the summary of Canto 2 with sections and chapter connections. So some devotees have written the flow chart which was there in Bhagavad Subodhini. So that was fine, but that was very crisp. So I was expecting that you will be writing a small paragraph in which the summary of each chapter will be there, and in between two subsequent chapters there will be a link. So how the second chapter is depend upon first chapter, like that. So in the 10 chapters of second canto, in the first chapter, Sukadeva Goswami starts answering the questions of Parikshit Maharaj. Basically, Parikshit Maharaj asked 4 questions in the end of first canto. So Sukadeva Goswami is answering all those 4 questions one after the other. In the first and second 2 chapters combinedly, he answers all the 4 questions. At the very beginning, he starts with what one is not supposed to do by describing the activities of materialistic people, and then he tells what one is supposed to do by speaking in couple of verses. Tasmat Bhara Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishwaro Hari Shrotavya Kirtavya Smartavya Ichata Abhayam. If at all you want ultimate perfection, please do these things in relation to Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he gives various examples in which he himself quotes. He was also transformed because of that bhakti only. And Katvanga Maharaj had only 1 muhurta time. By doing the same, he attained perfection. And he indicates that, my dear Parikshit, you have 7 days, so you could do it very well. Do it. And then he starts answering the third, in the sense, and the another 2 questions. If a person is about to die, what one is supposed to do in order to attain that perfection? Then Sukadeva Goswami takes the approach that if the person is practicing yoga or jnana or yoga, taking shelter of Ashtanga yoga, they can attain perfection. So that is a lengthy discussion. It tells that. Or if the person is a devotee, then he talks about devotional service also at the end of the second chapter. Like that, 4 questions are answered in 2 chapters. Having said that, somebody may ask the question that, okay, you talked about jnana practitioners and yoga practitioners and bhakti practitioners. What about devata worshippers? Then the third chapter talks about devata worshippers. Devata worshippers are called as less intelligent because they are worshipping devatas only for the temporary solution. Instead, if you worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you can fulfill your temporary results, and you can also fulfill the results which cannot be obtained by anything else. So at the end, he concludes saying that whatever you may have, whatever desire you may have in this world to obtain the results, everything can be obtained by bhakti, and also the prema which cannot be obtained by anything else can be obtained by bhakti. So like that, Sukadeva Goswami stops. So then the sages inquire from Suta Goswami, how is it this? We heard that Sukadeva Goswami spoke for 7 days. So you spoke only very little. So both of them are wonderful devotees. And since Sukadeva Goswami requested Parikshit Maharaj to hear, chant and meditate upon Lord's pastimes, so Parikshit Maharaj asked many questions, and Sukadeva Goswami must have described many other pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So please continue to speak. If we don't hear Krishna Katha, our life is good for nothing. Like that, they speak many things in relation to each and every body limb of the human body. Like that, the discussion goes till the end of the third chapter. Then, being requested by the sages of Naimisharanya, Suta Goswami starts telling the conversation that took place between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami in the 4th chapter. So, understanding that he should hear Krishna Katha, Parikshit Maharaj asks, please describe Krishna Katha and start with the creation pastimes. So Sukadeva Goswami understood that I have to stay back for some more time in order to speak to Parikshit Maharaj and satisfy his inquisitiveness. So before starting his actual Bhagavatam Katha, he offers Mangalacharana prayers. In the 4th chapter, he offers many prayers, seeking the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who at the beginning of the creation empowered Lord Brahma by allowing Saraswati to manifest on the tongue of Brahma. Now similarly, Sukadeva Goswami is requesting him that, please manifest on my tongue so that my words become alive. they'll be able to describe your pastimes in a meaningful way. Like that, he prays to Lord Krishna to manifest on his tongue and to decorate his words. And finally, he says that you have asked very important question, and this subject matter was discussed by Lord Brahma and Narada Muni long back. When Narada Muni approached Lord Brahma seeking solutions for the similar subject matter, Lord Brahma repeated whatever he had heard from Lord Vishnu in 4 verses, the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, to Narada Muni. So that conversation goes for 2 chapters, chapter 5 and chapter 6. So wherein Narada Muni asks various questions, Lord Brahma replies all those questions, describing the activities of Purusha avatars and Guna avatars, describing the creation, the Srishti Lila, creation, maintenance and annihilation, etc. etc. And at the end of the 6th chapter, he says that I have described all these things very nicely, but I want to describe something more, even though you are not asked. That is, activities of Lord's Leela avatars, Manvantara avatars, etc. etc. So all those things he describes in the 7th chapter. And at the end, he concludes saying that though I have described so many things, all these are nothing but the vibhutis of Supreme Lord. I only know this much. I don't know more than this. We only know whenever Lord comes to this material world and performs pastime, that much only we know. We cannot know what Lord does in the spiritual world. Even this also, by the mercy of devotees, we understand. So any person, whether might be born in a affluent family or low family, can understand about the Supreme Personality of Godhead by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord. So like that, he kind of concludes. If one hears Lord Srishti Lila, that person will be saved from the influence of Maya Devi. This is the concluding verse of 7th chapter. Mayam varnayo tamusya bhishwarasya anumodata shunvato shraddhaya nityam maya atmana muhyati. So just before that, before stopping his conversation with Narada Muni, he requests Narada Muni, since you have asked me, I have described you, and for which you have to pay me Guru Dakshina. That is, please travel all over the universe and describe the same subject matter to everyone with a sankalpa that after hearing the subject matter, bhakti should manifest in their heart. So that was the order given to or instruction given to Narada Muni by Lord Brahma. So then, understanding this, Parikshit Maharaj asked various questions. Now I want to know where all Narada Muni went and to whom he preached. Please teach me about all the exploits of Narada Muni. So that's why we see whole Bhagavatam, Narada Muni is coming again and again. He is inspiring various personalities and by which they all become wonderful devotees. Then he also asks various questions. If you number them, they will come up to 21 questions. So then Sukadeva Goswami says, in order to answer all your questions, I need to speak to you Srimad Bhagavatam. And this Bhagavatam was spoken to Lord Brahma. When Lord Brahma was born at the beginning of the creation, after he was born, he wanted to know where from he came. So when he could not find the source of his appearance, he kind of was in morose and he was not able to understand what to do for the purpose of creation. Then he heard 2 letters, Sa and Pa. So hearing those 2 letters, Narada Muni, not Lord Brahma, begins to perform tapasya. So at the end of that tapasya, for after 1000 celestial years, he had the darshan of Vaikuntha. He had the darshan of all the Vaikuntha Vasis, including Mother Lakshmi, then Lord Vishnu. Then, as he was offering prayers to Supreme Lord, Lord Vishnu touched him with his hand and then requested Brahma to ask for a benediction. Then Narada Muni asked 4 questions. Please tell me the meaning of these 4 things. Please talk about your material form and spiritual form. Please talk about your energies, Mahamaya and Yogamaya. Please talk about your pastimes in relation to Mahamaya and Yogamaya. And please teach me the method practicing which I will not be bound by the mode of passion or the arrogance. So in order to answer these 4 questions, Lord Narayana speaks Chatushloki Bhagavatam. In the first verse, he speaks about Lord's material form and spiritual form. The universe is the material form, and the spiritual forms are Paramatma and the Lord of Vaikuntha and also the various avatars that appear into in this material world and perform various pastimes. These are all is spiritual forms. Then he has material Maya and spiritual Maya, that is Mahamaya and Yoga Maya. Mahamaya acts in relation to people in the conditioned state. Yoga Maya acts in relation to people in the pure bhakti, in the transcendental state. Mahamaya also has two components, Vidya and Avidya. So Avidya shows unimportant things as important. Vidya shows important things as important. So Vidya is basically Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga mixed with Karma and Jnana. These are called Vidya. By taking shelter of these processes, one can understand what is what, and one will be qualified to attain liberation, etc. Then Avidya binds a person in this material world. That could be, we can say it as Vikarma, activities performed in the mode of ignorance, or Sakama Karma, activities performed in the mode of passion. And then the activities of Yoga Maya in relation to pure devotees of Supreme Lord is generally they are serving the Supreme Lord, they are in intimacy, but once in a while, Yoga Maya reveals Lord's transcendental position, just like it is revealed to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, revealed to Mother Yashoda after seeing into the mouth of Lord Krishna when it was complained that Lord Krishna ate dirt, and also Damodar Lila, and Lord Brahmaji was also revealed all the universes during the Brahma Vimohan Lila. All these pastimes are kind of quoted for that. And then pastimes in relation to Yogamaya and Mahamaya. In relation to Mahamaya, Lord is indifferent. Lord is Paramatma. Lord remains as Paramatma in Yoga Nidra. He does not involve in Yogamaya activities. He gives permission to all the living entities, they perform various activities. But in relation to Yogamaya, in the spiritual world, Lord is performing various activities along with his eternal associates. So by which Lord is indicating that just like I am indifferent to the material world, may you also become indifferent to material world. Just like I am attached to spiritual world and the devotees in the spiritual world, may you also become attached to the spiritual world and devotees in the spiritual world. So this verse is talking about Prayojana. The previous two verses are talking about Abhideya, Sambandha. And the last verse talks about the sadhana, which fulfills the four conditions: Anvaya, Vitareka, Sarvatra, and Sarvada. Only Bhakti fulfills all the four conditions. Neither Karma, Jnana, or Yoga does not fulfill these four conditions. That's how Lord indicates that Bhakti is the ultimate sadhana, following which one will never be bound up in this material world in that way. Then, after telling this, Lord Brahma was empowered and he began the creation. He was maintaining the creation, in maintaining the universe, helping the devatas in maintaining the universe, etc. etc. So one day Narada Muni approached Brahmaji, asked same question which Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami, for which Lord Brahma replied. And Narada Muni, traveling all over, he also spoke the same to Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva compiled Bhagavatam, he taught the same Bhagavatam to his son Sukadeva Goswami. And Sukadeva Goswami says that, now I will speak to you the same Bhagavatam, which contains 10 qualities, 10 characteristics. Then he defines what are the 10 characteristics in the 10th chapter in the beginning. Then the 10 topics are described in such a way that the 9 topics are under the shelter of the 10th topic, Ashraya. 9 topics describes about the Jiva and his activities in the material world. 10th topic describes about the Supreme Lord and his activities in the spiritual world. So in that way. So then he talks about the universal form, which was described earlier in the first chapter, also in the 6th chapter, and now in the 10th chapter. In the first chapter, it was described with an intention that an attached yogi who could not perform meditation on the Paramatma can meditate on the entire universe as a different body limbs of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then he becomes freed from all the envious behavior, proud behavior, etc. etc. Then he can become qualified to meditate upon Paramatma. For that reason, it was explained. And in the 6th chapter, it was explained that whatever we see in this material world, the Supreme Lord is both material cause and the effective cause, efficient cause. And the 10th chapter is explained that our form is made based on our desires. We wanted to eat, so mouth is manifested. We wanted to walk, legs are manifested. We wanted to experience the satisfaction of eating food, solid food and liquid food. That's how antra, nadia, intestines and veins, they were manifested, etc, etc. Like this, so many things are mentioned. So all these things are explained in the last chapter, 10th chapter of second canto. Like that, this is explained. Maybe not in detail, but some in brief. This has to be described in the first question. Then the remaining questions are more specific, only small section. Describe the life of an attached householder and suggest a positive alternative. Quote 211 and 211. So basically, second chapter, second canto, first chapter, verse number 1 to 11. You are supposed to describe the these verses. You have to briefly describe how attached householders are bound in this material world. The positive solution is Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Smaranam, which Sukadeva Goswami talks about himself also as an example. By hearing Bhagavatam from his own father, previously he was attached to Brahman, now he became attached to Bhagavan. That was being mentioned in the 9th and 10th verse. Parnishtitobhi Nairgunne Uttama Shloka Leelaya Gruhita Cheta Rajarshi Akhyanam Yad Aditavan Tamaham te abhidasyami Mahapaurushko Bhava Yasya Shadana Masu Shran Mukunde Madhisati. He said that Parnishtitobhi Nairgunne, though I was completely immersed in Brahman, but by hearing Uttama Shloka Leelaya, hearing the pastimes of Uttama Shloka, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, my consciousness became attracted to Lord's wonderful qualities. Like that he describes. Then he says that the great sages prescribe that the best form of sadhana is Harer Nama Anukirtanam. Hare eta nirvidyamanana michata makutobayam yoginam rupanirnitam Harer Nama Anukirtanam. So out of 9 angas of bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam and Smaranam are important. Out of these 3, Kirtanam is important. Kirtanam also has 3 divisions: Nama Kirtan, Guna Kirtan, Leela Kirtan. Among these 3, Nama Kirtanam is important. In Nama Kirtanam also there are different types. Among them, Anukirtanam, continuous chanting of Lord's holy name, is the most important. Like that, it is established by the sages of the past. Like that, Sukadeva Goswami prescribes. So this is the positive alternative, in the sense the best alternative that is available in that sense. So then in the rest of the first chapter and the second chapter are expected to briefly summarize in the third question. Describe the path of perfection of an attached yogi, that is karma mukti, and that of a detached yogi, instant mukti. Also describe the most auspicious path, the path of bhakti. So these 3 are supposed to be briefly summarized, which is nothing but the rest of the first chapter and the whole second chapter, quoting 2 verses 2 to 9 and 2 to 37. 2 to 9 is the form of the Paramatma, 2 to 37 is about bhakti. So what would be the result, process of bhakti and the result of bhakti? Pibantiye Bhagavata Atmana Satam Katamrutam Shravana Putesh Samrutam Punantite Vishaya Vidushtasham Vajanti Tatyarana Sarorvangitam. So basically here Sukadeva Goswami is giving direct prescription to Parikshit Maharaj. May you please drink the Krishna Katha, by which Vishaya Vidushitashayam, the polluted aim of life, will be destroyed. Whatever attachments you may have towards the material world and the things of the material world will be destroyed. And eventually one will get sheltered at the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vrajanti Tatcharana Saroru Hankitam. So this is the answer to the first question asked by Parikshit Maharaj. Atapurchami Samsiddhim. What is the ultimate perfection? Ultimate perfection is to get sheltered at the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is what is indicated in this verse. Then in the next question, that is from third chapter, describe Devata worshippers based on third chapter, verse number 2 to 7. How can they achieve the highest perfection? How bhakti is all encompassing. So various Devata worshippers, whom they worship, for what purpose they worship, all these details are mentioned. You could briefly mention them. And then whether people worship Devatas in order to fulfill their desires, or people practice jnana or yoga in order to get liberation, or practice bhakti in order to serve the Supreme Lord. All these desires can be fulfilled by practicing bhakti. And finally, one will get Krishna Prema also by practicing bhakti. So that is mentioned in the verse number 10 and 11. 10 talks about Akama, Sarkama, Mokshakama, Udarati, Tivrena, Bhakti Yogena, Jeta Purusham Para. But how one will be able to get to know about bhakti? By the association of devotees. That is mentioned in the 11th verse. Etavaneva jetam iha nishreyasodaya bhagavat etavaneva jetam iha nishreyasodaya bhagavati achalo bhava yad bhagavata sangata. By the association of devotees, one will be able to practice bhakti, and eventually one will be able to fulfill whatever desires one may have, and finally become an eternal supreme personality of Godhead. So that is what is indicated in this chapter. So then, so being instructed by Sukadeva Goswami that Parikshit Maharaj should hear Bhagavatam, Pibantiye Bhagavata Atmanam Satam, Katamrutam Shravana Puteshu Samrutam. Then Parikshit Maharaj asks, can you please speak about Lord's Lila? So before starting that, he offers various prayers, 12 to 24 of the fourth chapter. So all these prayers are briefly summarized, and 17th and 18th, the important verses have to be quoted. And then at the end, he says that I will answer to your question by quoting the conversation that took place between Narada and Brahma. Narada asked 6 questions, and Brahma answered those 6 questions in 2 chapters. So the 6 questions and their answers briefly by presenting the chart or the diagram of the prime creation that is being requested. So many devotees have attempted this answer very nicely. No problem. Then next question is about from the 6th chapter about the manifestation of the Virat Rupa in the 6th chapter. Describe the formation of various limbs of Virat Rupa. Why chapter 6 is titled as Purusha confirmed. And many devotees have written a table from Bhagavad Subodhini about the manifestation of various limbs. But that is not the answer for this question. The answer for this question is the manifestation of the universal form. How the Karmendriyas and Jnanendriyas have been manifested, describing the Adhyatma, Adibhuta and Adidaiva. The table which was given in the Word document which I have shared during this chapter, that table has to be presented. Very few wrote that table, but many wrote some other table which is there in Bhagavad Subodhini. That is not the proper answer. And many devotees did not touch that why this chapter is entitled as Purusha Sukta confirmed. So basically many of the verses in the chapter, they are similar to that of Purusha Sukta prayers. Here in our temple during Brahmosa festival or during any festival during Abhishek is going on, inside the backup rooms, our pujaris will sing Purusha Sukta prayers. So some of the Purusha Sukta prayers are there in the 5th chapter, and some of them are in the 6th chapter. 5th chapter especially this verse Saheva Purusha 35th verse. Saheva Purusha Tasmad Annam Nirbidya Nirgata Sahasroru Angri Bahu Aksha Sahasranana Shirshavan. So this verse is similar to that of a Purusha Sukta prayers. Sahasra Shirsha Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasrapat, like that. So like this many prayers that are there in the Purusha Sukta prayers, Purusha Sukta are there in the 6th chapter. That's why 6th chapter is called as Purusha Sukta confirmed. So that is one thing. Then briefly describe Ekapad and Tripad Vibhutis, which is there in the 6th chapter from verse number 18 to 22, and also describe how Brahma substantiates whatever he says is the actual truth. Then at the end of this chapter, Lord Brahma also says that whatever I have said you should accept it, because I have kept the lotus feet of Supreme Lord within my heart very firmly. Since I am speaking, keeping Lord's lotus feet in my heart, whatever I speak, they are actually the truth. So don't have any doubt about it. So in that way he establishes. Then who is qualified to cross the ocean of material existence and know the Lord? Those who receive the mercy of Supreme Lord, and those who receive the mercy of the devotees of the Supreme Lord, and those who take shiksha from the devotees of the Supreme Lord. They are only qualified to come back to Godhead. That is mentioned in this section. And how it is important to hear the subject matter of Lord's interaction with his external energy. What is the special instructions of Brahma to Narada? This is basically the 3 verses at the end of this chapter. So Lord Brahma requested Narada Muni to preach all over distribute this knowledge all over the universe. And at the end he says that whoever hears this knowledge they will be saved from the onslaught of Maya. So that's why this subject matter is very important in that way. Then describe the various forms and energies of the Supreme Lord. So forms are material form and spiritual form. Energies are Mahamaya and Yogamaya. This is the two verses. And describe Lord's interaction with his energies and his instructions about the best sadhana to Lord Brahma. This is the third and fourth verse of the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So best sadhana is bhakti, and Lord's interaction with Mahamaya is indifference. With Yogamaya is complete attachment. In that way, describe the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. Why is Paramatma the ashraya of the soul? So these are basically the 11 verses, the 9 verses of the 10th chapter. Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Poshanam, Mutaya, Manvantara, Ishanukata, Nirodha, Mukti, Yatraya. The definitions are given. And then next two verses, 8 and 9, it says that our human body is made up of three Purushas, three bodies. Adhyatmika Purusha, Adidevika Purusha, and Adi Bhautika Purusha. Adhyatmika Purusha is all the senses. Adi Bhautika Purusha is the gross elements. And Adi Devika Purusha is the Devatas who govern our bodily activities. And these three are interdependent, and they also depend upon Atma. And that Atma who is giving shelter to these three Purushas is taking shelter from Paramatma. And that Paramatma is non-different from Brahman and Bhagavan. So in that way, so Bhagavan is the ultimate shelter to everyone. That is established in that way. And finally, the last question is about what is the purpose of description of the Virat Rupa in the 10th chapter. That is to indicate our desire gives us the form with which we can fulfill our desires. So based on our desire, we get a particular body in which we can fulfill those desires. That is what is explained in the chapter. And describe the formation of various limbs of the Virat Rupa, how it is different from the chapter of 1 and 6. So many devotees have put lot of efforts to put this table, because that was very recent topic which we discussed the last day of the class. So this was fresh in mind, and many devotees have attempted this table very nicely. So very happy about it. So this is about briefly this question paper, and also indirectly we had a summary of entire second canto. So I hope you did not have any trouble in writing that. So this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So total 10 devotees have given exam. So couple of devotees are going to give exam in 1 or 2 weeks, and others we don't know. So that was about a little bit about second canto. So then, taking a clue from the 10 topics that are described in the 10th chapter, Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Poshana, Uti, Manvantara, Ishanukata, Nirodha, Mukti, Ashraya. So these 10 topics are described in the next 10 chapters of the Bhagavatam. Each 10 cantos of the Bhagavatam. Each canto directly or indirectly describes one of the topics elaborately and touches upon other topics briefly. So now we are going to start third canto. In the third canto, primarily the Sarga is being described. The whole of the third canto talks about Sarga, starting from chapter 5 all the way up to chapter 31. And in between, it also talks about Visarga, chapter 10, chapter 12, and chapter 20. These three chapters talk about Visarga also. In Visarga, there are two topics. One is Naimitika Srishti and Nitya Srishti. Naimitika Srishti is the Srishti done by Brahma, that is explained in the third canto. And then Nitya Srishti. The Srishti will be continued by all the Prajapatis and all the living entities who were created by Lord Brahma in the beginning. So that is explained in the entire fourth canto and the first half of the fifth canto, all the way up to 15th chapter. Then from 16th chapter to 26th chapter of the fifth canto, Bhagavatam talks about Sthanam, the third topic. That is about the structure of the universe, who is living where, what they are doing, etc. etc. So primary creation, Sarga, is basically the creation of the universe. Secondary creation by Brahma, that is Visarga, is the creation of various living entities. That is there in the third canto. Then in the sixth canto, Poshana is explained. Even though among various living entities, some of them are practicing the sadhanas described in the Bhagavatam. So while practicing their sadhana, they may get deviated here and there. So for them, Lord gives them second chance. So all the different people who are given second chance is briefly summarized in the sixth canto, starting with Ajamila, then Daksha, then Indra, then Chitraketu Maharaj, Urtarasura, and Aditi. All these people are described in the sixth canto who are given second chance by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in order to correct their mistakes. So then in the seventh canto, Uti, the impetus to perform various activity that is described by discussing three kinds of people who are populating the entire universe. All the living entities in the entire universe can be divided into three divisions: the pure devotees, atheists, and in between, who are trying to elevate themselves from the atheistic mentality to pure devotional platform. So the example of atheistic person is Hiranyakashipu. The example of pure devotee is Narada Muni. And the people in between, in order to describe them, Narada Muni talks about Varnashram system. People who are following the four Varnas and four ashramas in order to elevate their consciousness from the state of atheistic mentality, that of Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, to the pure devotee mentality, that of Prahlad Maharaj. This progression has been kind of presented in the, not progression, the support system that will take one from here to there, that is explained in the seventh canto, that is Varnashram system. Then eighth canto talks about Manvantara. So this Varnashram system is protected by Manvantara system. So in a day of Brahma, there are 14 Manvantaras. In each Manvantara, there are 6 kinds of people who will look after the protection of this Varnashram system. So the 6 people are Indra. Indra is supported by all the devatas and also all the variety of sages, Saptarishis and all the variety of sages and Prajapatis. And at the earthly level, Manu and the Manuputra, sons of Manu. These are the 5 people: Indra, the devatas, the sages, the Manu, and the later and after Manu, the Manuputra, the various sons of Manu, the kings who rule the Bhumandala. And all these 5 people actually protect the Sanatana Dharma all over the universe. And when these 5 people are also in trouble, they are all troubled by asuras like Ravana, asuras like Hiranyakashipu, etc. etc. That time Lord himself appears as Manvantara Avatara and he corrects the things very nicely. Like that, including Manvantara Avatara, there are 6 people who will look after the protection of this Varna system during each Manvantara period. So who are all these 6 people during the 14 Manvantara periods is briefly summarized in the entire 8th canto. Then Ishanukata, the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and also the pastimes of the devotees, various devotees, that is briefly summarized in the 9th canto. Specifically tells that when devotees starts practicing their sadhana, there are so many obstacles. How those devotees overcome those obstacles? With that theme, 9th canto describe the pastimes of Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa, pastime of Pururava, pastime of Yayati, pastime of Rantidev, and like that. There are many more pastimes. I just remember these people. So like this, and also Mandata, not Mandata, it is Chaubari Muni. So those devotees who had some deviation during their lifetime, and again they came back and progress in the path of perfection. So all these struggle stories are mentioned in the 9th canto, so that we can get inspiration. Seeing their endeavors, we can also endeavor in our life. That is mentioned in the 9th canto. Then Nirodha, the annihilation of the universe at 3 levels: Prakritika Pralaya, Nitya Pralaya, and Naimitika Pralaya. They are explained in the 12th canto. And then Mukti, Muktir Hitva Annata Rupam Sarupena Vyavasiti, the process by practicing which one can go back to Godhead. That is explained in the 11th canto through Uddhava Gita. In Uddhava Gita, Lord Krishna very elaborately talks about Nishkam Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, which enable one to go back to Godhead. And then finally, after going back to Godhead, what one will do in the association of Supreme Lord? a brief trailer of all those pastimes that Lord performs in the spiritual world eternally. When he comes to this material world, what he did is mentioned in the 10th canto. So that is Lord Krishna's pastimes are mentioned in the 10th canto. Like that, the 10 topics are described in the next 10 cantos, one by one. So, but in the third canto, Sarga and Visarga are described. So when at the end of the second canto, having heard through so much thing, the sages of Naimisharanya, their leader Shaunak Rishi asked that long back you spoke about Vidura, that Vidura heard from Maitreya after hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the goal of one's life. He came back to Hastinapur and delivered his elder brother, Dhritarashtra. So we want to know about what Vidura heard from Maitreya Muni. And having left Hastinapur, where all he went, what was his pilgrimage? Can you please tell me about all those things? So taking that as a clue, Suta Goswami describes what further transpired between Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. So then third canto starts with Sukadeva Goswami says that this Bhagavatam, which Lord Narayana spoke to Brahma, contains 10 topics, and these 10 topics were narrated by Maitreya Muni to Vidura, that he indirectly indicated in the second verse of the 10th chapter. Dashamasya Vishuddhartam Navana Mihalakshanam Varnayanti Mahatmana Shrutena Artena Anjasa. Varnayanti Mahatmana indirectly indicates that Maitreya had spoke the Bhagavatam consisting of 10 topics to Vidura. So that in the beginning of the third canto he starts with, so that Maitreya spoke to Vidura this Bhagavatam consisting of 10 topics. Then Parikshit Maharaj immediately asks, can you please tell me when Vidura met Maitreya and what Maitreya spoke to Vidura? So then the entire pastime unfolds. So after the Shantiduta episode, when Lord Krishna comes to Hastinapur in order to make peace with between Pandavas and Kauravas, that peace mission has failed by the arrogance of Duryodhana. Krishna left Hastinapur and went back to Virat kingdom, where Pandavas are there. But in the meantime, in the late night, Dhritarashtra called Vidura in order to discuss what to do now. So that time Vidura strictly says that you are maintaining offense personified. With Duryodhana is offense personified toward the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, who wanted to arrest Krishna just now, and is also offense personified toward the devotees of the Supreme Lord, that is Pandavas. So if you want to save your whole dynasty, your other sons, please abandon Duryodhana or arrest him immediately. That is the only solution. Then Duryodhana, who was overhearing all this conversation, he immediately shouts at Vidura, telling that all these days we maintained you. You are actually the son of a Shudrani. You are not worthy of living anymore. You should be hanged immediately. But whatever little service you have done for us towards my father, you are left with your breath. That is the only reward you get by you for your service all these years. So Vidura understood. So this personality is going to die, and Dhritarashtra is going to succumb to unlimited misery. It is better not to stay here anymore. Anyway, these people does not listen to me. So Vidura left his responsibilities of the minister post, and he began to travel to all the variety of holy places. Like that, he traveled all the variety of holy places over 35 years. Then having come to Prabhas, he understood that Lord Krishna and all the Yadus left from this world. He could not accept, he could not digest that news. Then in order to understand the subject matter, he was on the way to Madura, but he came to Vrindavan. There he met Uddhava, who was on his way to Badrikashram. And Vidura requests Uddhava, instead of directly asking did really Lord Krishna left and did really the Yadavas left, he asked that, please can you tell me about the Yadavas? Please tell me about Vasudeva, please tell me about this personality, that personality, please tell me about Krishna and Balram. He makes indirect inquiries and tell me about the Pandavas also, etc. 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 Then Uddhava says, what is the point of talking about Yadavas when their life Krishna has set? when their life Krishna, who is like the sun, has already set. So then there is no need to talk about the welfare of the Yadus, no need to talk about the welfare of the Pandavas. Now everyone is put into intense darkness without the light of Krishna, the light of their life. Lord Krishna had left. So then, even though Lord Krishna left, remembering that Lord Krishna left from this world, Uddhava remembers all the wonderful pastimes of Lord Krishna. So Uddhava narrates all the pastimes of Lord Krishna to Vidura. He talks about Lord Krishna's friendly dealings with Yadus and Pandavas, friendly dealings with his devotees, and his submissive nature towards Ugrasena, etc., etc. So many things. And then he also talks about Lord Krishna's pastimes in Gokul, Lord Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, Lord Krishna's pastimes in Madura, Lord Krishna's pastimes in Dwaraka, and finally the departure of Yadus and Lord Krishna in Prabhas. All those things he tells. And while after telling that, he tells that Lord Krishna told me to go to Dwaraka, Badrikashram, with a special message to the sages of Badrikashram. But unable to stay away from Lord Krishna, I also follow Lord Krishna all the way up to Prabhas, where after the annihilation of all the Yadus, when Lord Krishna sat underneath a pipal tree, I met Lord Krishna. That time Maitreya Muni also came there. Then Lord Krishna spoke to both of us on the essence of Chatushlokya Bhagavatam, which he previously spoke to Lord Brahma. Hearing this, Vidura asks Maitreya, can you please tell me that subject matter which Lord Krishna spoke to you before he departed from this world? Then Uddhava says that, if you want to know about it, may you please approach Maitreya. Now I have a special mission to go to Badrikashram. Then the whole night they discussed about Lord Krishna and Lord Krishna's wonderful pastimes. Next morning, Uddhava went to Badrikashram and Vidura went to Haridwar, where he meets our Maitreya Rishi. And after meeting Maitreya Rishi, after offering obeisances, Vidura asks, instead of asking directly the same question that what Lord Krishna spoke to you, he makes general inquiry. Can you please tell me about the creation of this world, how this universe has been created, which has got both happiness and misery put together? And can you also describe about how Brahma and other Prajapatis are empowered by the Supreme Lord to do the secondary creation? Can you also speak about various pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? These are some of the queries made by Vidura. So these queries are made in the 5th chapter. So in order to answer these queries, Maitreya starts describing the primary creation by Lord Vishnu in the 5th chapter. So in the 5th chapter and 6th chapter, Maitreya talks about the primary creation by Lord Vishnu and also the manifestation of the universal form, which we have discussed in 2nd canto, 5th and 6th chapters. The same thing will be repeated in the 3rd canto, 5th and 6th chapters. So then, after hearing this, the primary creation by Lord Vishnu, the manifestation of the unlimited universes, and Karnadakshaya Vishnu entering in each and every universe as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and then manifesting the entire universal form. Then Vidura asks many questions, just like Parikshit Maharaj asked in the 2nd canto, 8th chapter. Similarly, Vidura asks so many questions in the 7th chapter of the 3rd canto. Then Maitreya says that, in order to answer all your questions, I have to speak to you Bhagavatam. This Maitreya says in the 8th chapter. So she says that the 4 Kumaras who always stay in the Janaloka, once with a desire to hear Bhagavatam, following the path of Ganga, they came down to Patala Loka. Then they went below the Bhumandala, where they met Lord Shesha, who was holding the entire Bhumandala upon his hoods. And they requested Lord Shesha to speak Bhagavatam. Then Lord Shesha spoke the entire Bhagavatam to 4 Kumaras. Then eventually later on, the 4 Kumaras spoke the same Bhagavatam to Sankhya Muni. And Sankhya Muni later on spoke the same Bhagavatam to Bruhaspati and Parashara. And Parashara later on, he spoke the same Bhagavatam to his 2 disciples, Maitreya and Vyasa. So whatever Parashara Muni spoke, that we call it as Bhagavatam here, to Maitreya Rishi and Vyasa, that is nothing but is Vishnu Purana. Vishnu Purana is nothing but the conversation that took place between Parashara and Maitreya. That is nothing but the Bhagavatam which Lord Sankarsana spoke to four Kumaras. Four Kumaras spoke to Sankyayana Rishi. Sankyayana Rishi spoke to Brihaspati and Parashara. Parashara spoke to Maitreya and Vyasa. And now Maitreya is repeating whatever he had heard from his guru, Parashara Muni, to Vidura. So this is the Bhagavatam. This is another disciplic succession of Kumara Sampradaya. The second canto, we discussed about Brahma Sampradaya. Lord Narayana spoke to Brahma, Brahma spoke to Narada, Narada spoke to Vyasa, Vyasa spoke to Sukadeva Goswami, Sukadeva Goswami spoke to Parishit Maharaj, and Suta Goswami spoke to Sri Namisharana. That is Brahma Sampradaya, and this is kind of Kumara Sampradaya. So having mentioned that, then he speaks about how Brahma appeared from the lotus which appeared from the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and that Brahma wanted to know where from he appeared. So when he looks around, he could not see anything. Then he performed tapasya. Then he had darshan of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. Having seen the wonderful, beautiful form of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Lord Brahma offers many wonderful prayers glorifying the form of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. All those prayers are presented in the 9th chapter. So after praying so long, then he requests Lord Vishnu saying that please empower me so that I can do my service of creation. Then Lord Vishnu empowers Brahma saying that may you perform tapasya for some more time. With that, you will be empowered to do what you are supposed to do, what you have done in the previous days, in your previous days. Then Lord Brahma performs again tapasya. With the maturity of that tapasya, he understands what he is supposed to do. Then he divides that lotus into 3 divisions: Bhuloka, Borloka, and Swargaloka. Then he divides that lotus into 14 divisions: Bhuloka, Borloka, Swargaloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, and then 7 lower planets: Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatal, Patala. Like that, 14 divisions he makes. Then in order to fill these 14 divisions, he starts creating various living entities. First he creates plants and different variety of trees. Then he creates different variety of animals that includes aquatics, reptiles, birds, and beasts. Then he creates human beings. Then he creates different variety of devatas, different variety of superhuman beings, which includes the 8 variety: the devatas, the asuras, the yakshas and rakshasas, and bhuta preta pishashas, gandharvas, apsaras, kinnaras, kimpurushas, vidyadharas, charanas, and sadhyas and pitrus. Like this, 8 variety of superhuman beings were created by Lord Brahma. All the creation of all these different people is mentioned in the 10th chapter. Then in the 11th chapter, he describes about sorry, new share. We could open this. So we were discussing that 5th chapter, Lord Maitreya Muni starts about the primary creation, and 6th chapter he talks about the universal form. 7th chapter, Vidura asks so many questions, and 8th chapter, Maitreya said that in order to answer your questions, I need to speak Bhagavatam. Then he speaks about the birth of Lord Brahma, then his darshan of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, then his prayers are described in the 9th chapter, and Lord Vishnu empowers him. With empowerment, Lord Brahma divides that lotus into 14 divisions. Then he creates 4 types of beings: the plants, the animals, the human beings, and the superhuman beings, all the variety of devatas. And then in the 11th chapter, in order to understand how their activities are continued in this world, the divisions of time are described in the 11th chapter, starting with the minute time to the great time. So starting with the minute time, which is called as Truti, or the Paramanu time. For the sunlight to pass through a Paramanu, how much time it takes from that to the entire lifespan of Brahma, 100 years of life of Brahma. That is, the entire things are briefly summarized in this chapter. Then after describing about divisions of time, then Maitreya discusses what all Lord Brahma created. Then Lord Brahma creates 4 Kumaras, 11 Rudras, the 10 Manasaputras, including Daksha, Pulaha, Pulasya, Kratu, Vasishta, Angira, Agastya, finally with Narada Muni. All these different sons were created. Then various things created by Lord Brahma are summarized in the entire 12th chapter, like dharma, adharma, vak, kardama, and also creation about the four Vedas, four Vedangas, six Vedangas, four Upavedas, Puranas, Itihasas, alphabets, the four Varnas and four Ashramas, Dharmartha, Kama, Moksha, and all the sounds such as O, Bu, Bur, Bhuva, Swaha, and Om. All the variety of things that are required for all of us to live in a sane condition, all of them are nicely presented in the 12th chapter. All the creations that are done by Lord Brahma are briefly described in the 12th chapter. And Lord Brahma ends his creation by creating Swayambhuva Manu and Satarupa. Till then, all the creation was done by the mystic potency of Lord Brahma. Then Brahma understood that how long I should continue to create like this. That I should make a system by which the creation should continue till the end of the day. So he creates Swayambhuva Manu and Satarupa so that eventually by the union of male and female forms, the creation will continue. Then the chapter ends by saying that this Swayambhuva Manu and Satarupa were married and they gave birth to 5 children. Priyavrata, Uttanapada, Akuti, Devahuti and Prasuti. And Akuti married to Ruchi, Devahuti married to Kardama, Prasuti married to Daksha. Telling these things, this chapter ends. And in the 13th chapter, Vidur asks a question. Can you please tell me what did Swayambhuva Manu do afterwards? Having born from Lord Brahma's body, what did he do? So when Swayambhuva Manu was born along with Satarupa, both of them approached Lord Brahma and they prayed to Lord Brahma, my dear father, please engage us in some service. Then Lord Brahma told that, my dear son, may you become the king of the entire Bhumandala and rule over the human beings and all the living entities who are living on the Bhumandala. Then Swayambhuva Manu looked around and he came back to his father and reported saying that, my dear father, Bhumandala has been submerged into Garbhodaka ocean. Can you do something to bring it up, bring it out of water? Then Lord Brahma understood that I cannot do anything on my own. Then he meditated on the Supreme Lord. Then Lord Vishnu appeared from the nostril of Lord Brahma as a small creature. And that creature increased in size and appeared into a huge boar, huge Varaha. And that Varaha jumped into the water and lifted up the entire Bhumandala, kept it on its position. So this happened at the beginning of the day of Brahma, this current day of Brahma. That time Lord Varaha appeared in the white form. He is called Shweta Varaha. But Maitreya Muni talks about another Varaha who will appear later in the 6th Manvantara, Chakshusha Manvantara. That time again Bhumandala was submerged into Garbhodaka ocean. As he was lifting the Bhumandala, Hiranyaksha came and fought with Lord Varaha. He briefly mentions in one verse, like Lord Varaha killed Hiranyaksha, then he lifted Bhumandala, kept it on its position. And Vidur asks, can you please tell me why Hiranyaksha fought with Lord Varaha? So in order to tell that, he describes from chapter 14 to chapter 19 about various things connected to the fight between Lord Varaha and Hiranyaksha. So the pregnancy of Diti is explained in the 14th chapter, that when Kashyapa Muni was performing evening oblations, Diti approached him and requested him for union so that she can beget a children. Because all her sisters, they all had children. She did not have children. She wanted children immediately. Kashyapa requested her stay till the night, but still she insisted. So because of which, Kashyapa told that because of this act of procreation which happened during the twilight time, during the Sandhya time, you will give birth to 2 asuras, and they will be the cause of distress to the entire universe, and they will be killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, but in the meantime, she understood the mistake she did. She came to her husband and begged forgiveness. So, for which Maitreya said that because you repented your act, you will also have one of your grandson as a great devotee. That was Prahlad. So in this chapter, in the 14th chapter at the end, he talks about the wonderful qualities of Prahlad Maharaj. Then the chapter ends. Then, because of the pregnancy and understanding that her sons would be the cause of the disturbance to the entire universe, she does not give birth to those children. She keeps the two children within her home for 100 years. So because they were there in the womb of Diti, the entire universe is experiencing inauspicious situation by their presence. The entire universe became dark. The Devatas feeling so much uncomfortable, they approached Lord Brahma. Then they requested Lord Brahma, what is the reason for this disturbances in the entire universe? Then Lord Brahma says that once my four Manasaputras wanted to go to Vaikunta and have darshan of Lord Vishnu, Jaya and Vijaya, the gatekeepers, stopped them, for which the four Kumaras cursed them to be born in the world as Asuras. As a result, now they are going to be born as the sons of Dipti and Kashyapa. And they will be killed by the Supreme Lord. Till then, no one can do anything. So, hearing this, all the Devatas are somewhat pacified and they go to their respective abodes. So, this entire pastime is discussed in the 15th and 16th chapter. 2 chapters, all these things are described. Then, the 17th chapter, the Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu are born. As soon as they were born, they grow to youth. And Hiranyaksha travels all over the universe, defeating all the variety of kings. When he approaches Varuna, and Varuna says that I have already become old, may you approach Lord Vishnu, who is lifting the Bhumandala from Garbhodaka ocean. Then he goes and fights with Lord Varaha. And Lord Varaha kills Hiranyaksha after having a good fight with him. This entire pastime is mentioned in the 17th, 18th, and 19th chapter. Three chapters talk about this fight between Lord Varaha and Hiranyaksha. Then again, Vidura asks, can you please tell me about the creation by Brahma? Can you please repeat what else Lord Brahma created? Then the creation of 8 variety of devatas is briefly summarized in the last chapter, the 20th chapter. Having heard, then this chapter also concludes with the creation of Swayambhu Manu. At the end, Swayambhu Manu and Satarupa were created. Then Vidura asks a question in the 21st chapter. So I know that I heard that Swayambhu Manu and his children are wonderful devotees. I want to hear about their activities, the activities of Swayambhu Manu and his children. And first, specifically, I want to hear about the activities of the son of Devahuti and Kardama, that is Lord Kapila. So, please talk about their marriage and the birth of Lord Kapila and activities of Lord Kapila. So, in order to describe about the birth of Lord Kapila, Maitreya talks about the marriage that took place between Kardama and Devahuti. So, in the 21st chapter, with a desire to beget children, Maitreya, the Kardama performs severe austerities to please Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu appears and tells him that very soon Swayambhu Manu will come with his daughter and his daughter will be given in marriage to you and she will fulfill all your desires. So eventually, as told by Lord Vishnu, in due course of time, Swayambhu Manu Satarupa, they come to the ashram of Kardama with their daughter Devahuti and they request Kardama to marry their daughter. And Kardama marries her with one condition, I will marry her, but after begetting children, I will go to Vanaprastha ashram. Then father and mother of Devahuti agreed for this condition and Devahuti was married to him, and that marriage is explained in the 22nd chapter. And Swayambhu Manu goes back to his kingdom and something about Swayambhu Manu is described in the 22nd chapter. Then in the 23rd chapter, after their marriage, Devahuti serves her husband very nicely. So many years passed. Eventually, being satisfied with her, Swayambhu Manu, the Kardama Muni asks Devahuti, please tell me what do you want? What desire you have? I am ready to fulfill all your desires. Then Devahuti says that I want to have children. So in order to please her desire, Kardama Muni creates a beautiful aerial mansion and takes her in that aerial mansion to various pleasurable places, and they spend so many years. Eventually impregnates her 9 times, by which she begets 9 daughters at once. So when the 9 daughters were born, as per the original agreement, Kardama was about to leave home. That time Devoti tells that now you are leaving. Eventually, in due course of time, after the marriage, your 9 daughters also will leave. Then who will look after me? Who will protect me? Who will give me fearlessness? Then Kardama Muni remembered that when Lord Vishnu appeared, he told that I will marry you, I will beget 9 daughters through you, and also the Supreme Lord will appear as our son. Then Kardama tells Devahuti to worship the Lord. Then after some time, she gives birth to Lord Kapila. When Kapila was born, one day Kardama approaches Kapila and requests him to give him permission so that he can go to forest and perfect his life. So Lord Kapila gives some instructions how to live in the forest, and then with that instructions, Kardama Muni enters into forest and perfects his life. Then on one day, finding a suitable time, Devahuti starts asking various questions to Lord Kapila, her own son, requesting that, my dear Lord, it is by your Maya I have been bound by delusion. Now please enlighten me. So in order to enlighten Devahuti, Lord Kapila talks about Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Durgadas Prabhu, you are able to hear me now? So in order to enlighten Mother Devahuti, Lord Kapila says that there are 3 paths practicing which one can go back home back to Godhead: Jnana, Yoga, and Bhakti. Then Devahuti asks that among these 3, which one I should practice and which is easy? And Lord Kapila says Bhakti is easy. Okay, then Devahuti asks, okay, Bhakti is easy, but please tell me about what kind of Bhakti I should practice and also talk about Jnana and Yoga. Then in the 25th chapter, Lord Kapila talks about that Bhakti which he is supposed to practice, and 26th and 27th chapter Lord Kapila talks about Jnana, and 20th chapter he talks about Ashtanga Yoga. Having hearing about karma, bhakti, jnana and yoga very detailed, in the 29th chapter, just like jnana and yoga has various limbs, does bhakti also has various limbs? Then Lord Kapila talks about bhakti in the mode of ignorance, bhakti in the mode of passion, bhakti in the mode of goodness, bhakti in the mode of pure goodness. Then he also talks about one should be careful about offense towards other living entities. One should offer respect to all the living entities. Then he also talks about, Devoti asks, please tell me about the effect of time, and please also talk about the samsara of living entity. Then he talks about the effect of time, power of time in the 29th chapter. And then 30, 31, 32, Lord Kapila talks about the samsara of living entity in Tamoguna, 30th chapter, Rajoguna in 31st chapter, in Satvaguna, 32nd chapter. The people in this world are in 3 modes. The people in the mode of ignorance are described in the 30th chapter. People in the mode of passion are described in the 31st chapter. And people in the mode of goodness are described in the 32nd chapter, wherein they practice Sakama Karma Yoga or Nishtakama Karma Yoga. Eventually, they perfect their lives like that. That is being described in the 32nd chapter. Having heard all these things, in the 33rd chapter, Devahuti offers her prayers unto Lord Kapila, her wonderful prayers unto Lord Kapila. So hearing those prayers, Lord Kapila taking permission from his mother, he starts wandering all over. Then Devahuti, following the instructions of Lord Kapila, perfects her life and goes back home back to Godhead. Both Kardama and Devahuti, they went back to Godhead following the instructions of Lord Kapila. And eventually, Lord Kapila, having approached Sagaramela in Bay of Bengal, he makes his residence there and starts meditating upon the Supreme Lord. So with which the 3rd canto, 33rd chapter ends. So this is like a brief summary of the entire 3rd canto, which we will discuss elaborately from next week onwards. So these are the few things that I wanted to share. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji. Prabhu, you remember all this by heart?
Who?
You remember the whole canto, or are you referring to somebody, some books or notes?
No, in the screen I am referring to the chapter names and telling you.
Oh my God. Thank you, Prabhu.
Sorry. So, is it okay?
Yes, Prabhu. I was just admiring your knowledge.
No, not like that. So, this is briefly about this. So, anyone has any query related to this? Second canto or third canto or anything else? We just have 5 minutes, then we'll wind up. Before that, I have something to ask from all of you. That's why I'm asking. If some of you want to ask something, nothing.
Prabhuji, Dhanatnam.
Yes, Matji.
Hare Krishna.
Ah.
Prabhuji, will you be sending the recording of this class?
Every recording I'm sending.
Okay, because I missed the initial 15-20 minutes.
No problem. You can refer to link afterwards.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
So, I have a couple of things to ask from all of you. So, I request all of you to, because this is the first time I'm teaching Bhakti Vaibhav. Before this, I did not teach. I mean, I took some couple of classes here and there. So, I am coming from Bhakti Vedanta Vidyapit, which we did in GEV, which we studied. So our way of presentation is based on what we have heard from our seniors in our Bhakti Shastri or Bhakti Vaibhav classes. I don't know whether I am properly doing justice to it or not. So I request all of your guidance also in order to improve the way we conduct our classes, etc. So here in the slide, you are able to see in the screen, you are able to see how the assessment is taking place in the Vidyapit. So this is how they do assessment in Vidyapit. So weekly closed book exams, there it is actually daily, that carries 25%. Grand test which they conduct after every canto, that carries 15%. And open book exams which were given at the end of each canto, that carries 25%. And there are 4 presentations which all of you are supposed to give in due course of time of our Bhakti Vaibhav course. Generally, they conduct after second canto 1 presentation, after third canto 2nd presentation, after 4th canto 3rd presentation, after 6th canto for 5 and 6 the 4th presentation. So that has to be done. That will take about 25%, and attendance is about 10%. So all put together is 100%. So this was the assessment procedure of Vidyapit. I requested Radhika Vallaprabhu, please tell me what is the assessment procedure. And he told that I will tell you later on, maybe a week later. He did not tell me what exactly it is happening in base here in Chowpatty. So more or less it will be like this only. These are the same components are there, but the percentage may be very little bit here and there. The weekly tests we conduct, we are doing for every chapter. After completion of every chapter, we have one exam for 50 marks. So all the exams put together, they carry 25%. And the grand test that we conduct at the end of each canto, that will carry 15% of marks. And open book exams that were given to you, and that is 25%. By the way, I have sent you the mail after the grand test that 4 questions need to be answered based on second canto and submit by the end of this month. So if you want, you can take 1 week extra, no problem, but do at your convenience and submit. That is also part of your assessment. And 4 presentations, these presentations will be able to do only when you come back to temple. Now we will not be able to do. And attendance. So these are the different components. Is this okay, or you think it should be little bit different?
Prabhuji, this presentation, is it required?
Yeah, it is required. Bhakti Vaibhav is teaching people, actually training devotees in order to present the philosophy. Based on your studies, you need to present the topics that are there in the Bhagavatam in a summary way. There is a presentation for 20 minutes for each by each person, and 10 minutes is for question answer. 30 minutes presentation you have to make 4 times.
Very good.
It is compulsory for Bhakti Vaibhav. For Bhakti Shastri it is not there, but Bhakti Vaibhav is compulsory. Otherwise, how do we understand that you have studied Bhagavatam?
Yes, but Prabhuji, why do you have 4 presentations? You can have 1 presentation only, no?
No. One presentation, what will happen? Nothing will happen.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, this open book examination, I have one request, like whenever that particular topic is going on, if that time itself we get it, the question, then we can understand the matter in depth that time itself, because now it is bit difficult in a sense that see now today we have not done something which we really need to read and understand and study, but from next week we will start with the new studies of the third canto. So
Actually,
again
that,
going one, it becomes means it will be really difficult अभी फिर complete करने का इसलिए कैसे तो करने का, that way it will happen. So actually the purpose of the open book will not be solved as such.
so that is true. I was asking Radhika Prabhu, should we really give or not? So, because in that some time has gone, and I gave it at the end because you are already writing every weekly exams, and all of you are having so many complaints. We are not able to study. We are not able to do this. We are not able to do that. So, keeping that in mind, I did not give intentionally. I gave it after completion of your grand test. If I would have given in between, you would have immediately raised a complaint. We have already overloaded. Why you are giving some more things? I gave at the end of the grand test because for grand test you already read.
For the first
Ah,
no, but for writing of the open book, no, Prabhuji, whatever we did for the grand test, no, that usually is not sufficient for writing of the open book, because we need references and things like that to add if we have to write for the 25 marks. So for the grand test, we have not gone in depth.
see. Hare Krishna Mataji, 25 marks, just because 25 marks, you don't have to write 25 papers.
No,
you are expected to write only 200 to 250 words. That is maybe 2 pages, not more than that. Kindly do not write big answers. It is a big headache for me also to go through. I need a lot of time to go through also. For you are only one person to write your answer. For me, it is like 30 people are Bhakti Shastri and 15 people are Bhakti Vaibhav. So many people write elaborate answers. You write as much is expected, that is sufficient.
I understand, Prabhuji, but what happens open book questions, and for there also we have written this thing, but there, like instead of one unit test, suppose 1 week the chapter is not completed, that time the open book question was given. So that time it was easy for us to comfortably we could spend time of 4 or 5 days a week for one question. Now
no
if
problem,
we have to write 4 questions, it becomes so means
I understand your thing. I will try to do it in a third canto. Second canto I did not give because since the beginning of second canto I was always hearing so many complaints that I am going very fast. A lot of exams, this exam, that exam, like that's why I did not give. I gave at the end because your grand test is over. Now 2 weeks you are free so that you could write exam. The last week and this week also you don't have anything to read, so you could write open book करके दिया था.
much less time, so we had kept so many works, other sevas pending, so that we had to complete after the exam, so we didn't get actually any time to write for the open book.
It's okay,
that
it's okay,
is our situation.
That's why I'm saying you can take a couple of weeks extra, no problem. You do आराम से, कुछ problem नहीं, उससे कुछ urgency नहीं. And this is one thing I wanted to ask. In third canto onwards, we'll keep updating. If all of you have any specific these things, you can tell me, not a problem. And today anyway we are getting late, we'll stop now. So before that, I have one more thing to ask all of you. So this is one of the important things which I heard some complaints from some devotees. So here I'll show you something. May you kindly see. This is Canto 1. This is Canto 2. So in Canto 1 we have 19 chapters. In Canto 2 we have 10 chapters. In total there are 808 verses in Canto 1, 393 verses in Canto 2. And per chapter there are 39 or 40 verses in Canto 2 and 42 verses in Canto 1. So like that, if you see the total chapters over 6 cantos, that is your Bhakti Vaibhav course, there are 138 chapters and 5570 verses, and per chapter average is 40 verses. And what is the time tenure for your Bhakti Vaibhav course? What is the duration of your Bhakti Vaibhav course? Hare Krishna. What is the duration of your Bhakti Vaibhav course?
3 years or 4 years, Prabhu?
First two cantos, 2 years was told, no?
2 years?
Approximately 4 years.
Okay, I will write 2 years. So if it is 2 years, in a year we have 53 weeks. But if you remove some of the holidays, holiday for the grand test, this, that, hardly we get 40 to 45 classes in a year. Yes or more? How many classes we can take? At max, worst class 45 will take. Okay. Then 2 years we have 90 classes. So in order to cover 138 chapters, per class how many chapters we have to cover? So per class how many chapters we have to cover?
Prabhuji, 2 years we said for the 2 cantos only, not 6 cantos.
I asked for Bhakti Vaibhav. Bhakti Vaibhav how many years?
Bhakti Vaibhav total, if 6 cantos we have to count, it will be 4.5 years, no, Prabhuji?
If you know, you tell me. If you don't know, don't tell me. Don't tell some number. Actually, it is for 4 years, as Prabhuji mentioned. If it is for 4 years, 4 years means every year 45 classes. If you consider, you get 180 classes for 4 years. Okay. So if there are 180 classes, in order to cover 138 chapters, you have to cover every week 0.76 chapters. That means 0.76 into this many verses. That means 31 verses per week you have to cover. Every class minimum on average you have to cover 31 verses. Sometimes it may be a little bit more, sometimes it may be a little bit less. So whatever it is. So in second canto we had 393 verses. So for 393 verses, we have taken 20 classes. Second canto alone, we have conducted 20 classes. And many devotees are telling that I was always fast. I should cover less than 20 verses. I should not cover more than that, etc. etc. If on average 31 verses per class, if it goes, we should have covered 620 verses. That means many more chapters of the third canto, so we should have covered. So second canto, it was very slow. Of course, during that time, 3 weeks we have taken two classes. So in that way, we can we have saved some time, but otherwise, it is like that. So I am showing these details. So when you ask in the future, this is not like this, this is not like that. Kindly remember all these things. So on average, every week we should cover 31 verses at least. Then we will be able to complete the entire Bhakti Vaibhav portion, either me or any other teacher, in 4 years.
Noted, Prabhuji. We understand your predicament.
And one more thing, yesterday was speaking to Gauranga Prey Prabhu, who actually taught Bhakti Vaibhav for many batches. He was telling that Bhakti Vaibhav is not a line-by-line study course. It is an overview course of the 6 cantos of Bhagavatam, with an intention to raise interest in the students to read Bhagavatam systematically, with an intention to give the familiarity with the Bhagavatam to the students, with an intention to give them the overview of the Bhagavatam. The contents of Bhagavatam should be known by the students. They should know what is where. When they go back home, they should be able to find out what, they should be able to know what is where. When something they want to read, they should be able to open that section, the Bhagavatam. So outline should be clear with the students by after studying Bhakti Vaibhav course. So that is the intention. It is a overview course. It is not a detailed course of the entire book. So Prabhuji was saying that I will cover one chapter in 1 hour, touching upon all the aspects of the chapter. So like that he was telling. After teaching many batches, now he says that I will cover the entire chapter in 1 hour only. Why you people are taking 3 classes? Like that he was telling. So these are couple of points I wanted to update you from my side, and I request. So how you should conduct the third canto? Is there any changes in our daily discussions? All these things you can update me by next week. No problem. So for now, we'll stop now. It is already 7:30. So Maharaj class might start anytime. So thank you very much. We will start third canto next week, and we'll see how it
Hare
goes ahead.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.